Hi, my name is Deborah L. Welty. I am a certified teacher of decorative art at Jubilee Junction Art Studio. My website is qualityart.com. Today I'm going to show you how to paint this design I've entitled Golden Dragonfly Frolic. I originally designed this piece for the Society of Decorative Painters National Conference in Chicago of May 2013. I painted it first on a tote bag for this conference, and then I painted it on this t-shirt so that I could wear it while I was teaching it. Now take your pattern, and an Identi-Pen is what I prefer to trace my pattern. Ink pens do not transfer well and pencil can smear. Lay your tracing paper on your pattern. As you can see, I've started tracing some of these already. And trace your lines again carefully with the Identi-Pen. And then I want you to cut your elements apart so that it'll be easy for us to arrange them on our shirt. Flip your pattern over, and then we're going to take a General's white charcoal pencil. We will lay the items down, face down on our paper, and then we will trace over the back side of these lines with the white charcoal pencil. And I also carry these at my website. And grab my shirt. I'm using a simple black t-shirt. Okay, as I put this in, I check to see where it's hitting on the shoulders. I want to make sure there's an even amount off on each side so that it's centered in my shirt. You're going to look at your underarm seams to see where this line is going to fall, and you're going to think about where this design would be, and I recommend that it go about the width of your hand across the top area of your shirt. And then I'll take my straight pins, I will grab a sleeve, and I will pull it tight but not taut but not tight. You do not want to stretch or distort your fabric. You just want it nice and snug. And I make sure again that I've got the same amount of fabric showing on the back on each side so that it's centered for me. And then I flip my tails up. And if they are longer than what my top board is, I'll turn it down. I'll turn just a little bit. And then I grab my shoulders, the extra that I have up here at the shoulders, and wrap that around the end there and pin it through all of the surfaces, and that gives me a nice smooth surface on the front. And then I turn it over and I am ready to start putting my pattern on. Okay, now I will lay my patterns. I'm not going to use the resting one. I'm going to put him on a sleeve later. I lay my patterns right side down, and I look at it and think about how I want my arrangement to be. I want one of my dragonflies to be flying down from the shoulder, and I think I'll make it this one that has all the details. And I will have this one flying away off that shoulder, and then this little guy can just be flying around wherever he wants to go. Remember, it's called Dragonfly Frolic because I think dragonflies like to frolic around in my yard. So you want to make sure that you arrange these in a way that they look like there's movement. You don't want them all going the same direction like this. That's boring. So have one of them flying down, one of them flying off in one direction, another one flying off in another direction. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now I flip this over and I carefully lower it onto my fabric because the charcoal pencil can smear. I hold it firmly with one hand. I grab a bottle of paint and I set it down onto the surface, and I pull firmly, can you hear that? Away from my hand to do my transfer. And then look, there it is. So now I flip this one over, carefully set it down, and I didn't leave myself much room to hold on to. So I'm having to hang on hard with my fingers here. And I can peek, and it's there really well. And now I just have one more. And I don't want this one to be as high up as that one, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit and over a little farther away from the neck, since this one's practically touching the neck. And I've got a lot of room to hang on to here. Okay, very good. And you see, we can see our little segments. And now you are ready to paint. Okay, are you ready to paint? I am. We've got our 3 dragonflies on, and the first one I'm going to paint is this little guy right down here. If you see by my sample, he's got a blue body, so that's the one we're going to paint first. That would be ocean blue. So I'm going to get my paints out here. And it doesn't take very much, as you can see. Mediterranean blue. Dioxazine purple. I like to shade my ocean blue with dioxazine purple. I like to use the bright avocado as a tint on my blue and purple ones. And I have all of my dragonflies accented with this imperial gold. This dragonfly happens to have glimmer on the wings, so we're going to get the glimmer out. I did use all of the different types on this one. And the body has some turquoise sparkle on it, so we'll get a little of that one out too. And some easy float for our line work. Put that in one of my little wells. All right, we're ready to roll. I'm going to use the size 0 brush to apply my paint. I like to moisten my brush and then pinch the extra moisture out so that I've got my bristles pinched together nice and smooth. This paint is made to be applied heavily so that you totally saturate the weave of your fabric. I do pick up a pretty generous amount of paint, and I'm stroking it on. I am not scrubbing it in. And sometimes I will even put my palette right up here next to the area I am painting, so that as I carry back and forth, I am not dripping on my fabric. If that would happen, if you would drop your brush or drip on your fabric, do not worry about it over much. If you try to clean it off with water, you'll cause a bigger mess than if you just leave it alone. The best thing to do is to let it dry and turn it into another dragonfly, or you spatter the entire piece, or add little hearts or something of that sort. Okay, now I wipe the excess paint from my brush, and then I am going to dip the corner of my brush into dioxazine purple. And you can see it here on my brush, and then I am going to paint along the right side of the body until the paint disappears, and then I'll load it again and do it again. And do you see how that really sets off the ocean blue to have that purple along the one edge? If you want to create more interest in this little body, you could shade it, pretend like there's a head here, and shade it underneath where the head might be, or where a piece of a body might be, and just have a little more going on with him. We're going to allow this to tack up just a little bit while we paint the wings, before we apply turquoise sparkle over the top. Okay, now I want you to pick up your liner brush, and I want you to go into the Easy Float here, and the wings are outlined with the Mediterranean blue, which is your medium color blue here. I'm going to go into my puddle of blue, and I am working into the paint and working the paint into my bristles until I have an inky consistency. And I don't want to have any big blobs of paint. I pick up a paper towel and I blot the ferrule to make sure I'm not going to have any surprises. Holding the brush straight up and down. I draw around my tracing lines, and remember, these will wash off, and it is absorbing the paint, so you will have to do this a couple of times to get it bright enough. But look how nice that flows on there. It works better to use Easy Float because you get a finer line that flows on nice and neat. If you use water, you run the risk of having the paint bleed. I keep reloading my brush as I see it start to drag on my lines. Okay, now I'm going to have to grab a little more Easy Float as my paint, I've run out of what I've made there. Remember, a nice inky consistency. I say inky because that means there's still a lot of pigment left, but it flows nicely. If you get it too watery, you're gonna not have anything left here to show up. As it is on the black, you have to, do it a couple times to get it to show up good anyways. Try to turn this so that you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going over this and over this until we think we've got a real nice outline of our wings. It's looking pretty good. Okay, there we go. I'm cleaning my brush in my water container, and I like a water container that has a grid in the bottom because it helps pull the paint out of my brush. Now I'm going to pick up the number 2 brush to apply the glimmer. And the glimmer looks white on your palette, but it will dry clear and it will be all glitter when it gets done. So totally fill this in solid. You can paint over top of the lines even, because like I said, it will dry clear. Make sure that you're totally saturated. And see, I dripped right there, but I'm just going to leave it go. A lot of times, nobody else will ever notice it. You're the only one that'll know it's there. A lot of things that happen, it's just better never to panic over it or get too upset. Just take a deep breath. And once you've calmed down, think of a way to deal with it. And there's usually a good solution available. Doesn't that look nice? And you can see I've scooped up a heavy amount of paint on my brush. And I'm smoothing it out. I'm not leaving ridges as you see here when I first apply it, but I am smoothing out so I have a nice, smooth, even coverage. Going around the bend of the wings, getting it right out there to the edges, trying to make sure that all of my fabric is covered very well. So this paint is made to be applied soft, wet into wet, because it does bond with the weave of your fabric, and therefore it does not wash out, and it is nice and soft when you wear it. It is never stiff. I have paintings that are over 20 years old and they still look like brand new, and they're just fantastic. It's great. You can create stuff for your children, for home decor. These butterflies would look great around the edges of curtains or on pillows. Okay, I think we've got these covered real well. Now I wiped the excess out of my brush, and I got a little bit of the bright avocado on the corner of my brush, and I'm going to tint in here in the wings. Do you see how that just really made those wings pop to have that tint in there? Okay, this is looking great. Now I rinse my brush and I pick up the turquoise sparkle and I coat the body. You can't see this real well right now, but once it dries, it'll just be nice and shimmery. And then we go back to our liner brush and the Easy Float, and we work into the Imperial Gold this time. I use the Imperial Gold as an accent on all of my dragonflies. I put it here along the top edge of each wing where it comes out from the body, just to give it that little bit of brightness. See how that really sets this dragonfly off? A little bit heavier there, right there. And then I made a few strokes, just little dashy type strokes on the body. And we can call that dragonfly done. Okay, you paint this much, and then we'll come back and we'll paint the green dragonfly up here at the top. Okay, do you have your gorgeous sparkling blue dragonfly done? I hope so, and I hope you had fun doing it. Now, let's paint this green one up here. He's done a little bit different. We will first paint the body with bright avocado. And you notice, I like to keep my pattern handy, because if you'll notice, this one has a real body, a segmented body that is distinguishable, and a tail. And it helps me to understand that if I can look back again at my original drawing. But since I had a nice tracing, when I transferred this on, I can see my body of the dragonfly and the tail and the head really well. Now this bright avocado turns kind of yellowish as you paint it, and it's really absorbing down into the fabric, so we may want to put a couple of coats on. You need to do this while it's still wet. You can let it tack up a bit, but it's important to always put the paint on wet into wet. I'm using the chisel edge of my brush to try to get that tail nice and thin there. Put a little more on the head. Smooth that out. Okay, that looks nice. I'm going to want to shade this one with some avocado green. Christmas green. It's a little bit darker in value. I wipe the extra bright avocado out of my brush, and I'm going to go around along this top edge or the right side again of the body, and I'm applying a small amount of the Christmas green and a little bit underneath the head here and underneath the body on the tail, and give us a little bit of shading. And that doesn't show up real much, so I'm going to grab a really small amount of Mediterranean blue on the corner of my brush, and I'm going to strengthen that shading. Can you see what a difference that made? Okay, he's looking pretty nice. Get a little stronger shading there on the body. And then we are going to paint, well, we've got the green on our brush. Let's go ahead and just stroke in these legs. I like to use the chisel edge of my brush. I load the paint by smashing it into the bristles on each side so that I get a nice sharp edge, my chisel edge. And then I can just stroke it on. I do this a lot rather than using a liner brush. But you can do whatever you're comfortable with. We've got arms and legs coming out of this guy. Okay, that's looking great. I'm going to switch to the number 2 brush so that I can apply the paint a bit faster. Like I said, it's always good to use the largest brush you can comfortably fit into an area. Now it looks like I was a little careless up here and rubbed off the end, so I got to kind of draw that back in, but there we go. That's pretty good. And I will paint in each of these sections green. This dragonfly is taken from a photo of a dragonfly that was in my yard. I was out photographing spiders, granddaddy longlegs to be exact, one day, and a dragonfly landed on my leg. So I took a lot of pictures of it while it was sitting there, and it had wings like this. It had darker sections, 3 different darker sections, and then a clear section in the middle. Of course, it wasn't actually bright lime green like I'm painting this one. It was just a dull brown and black. But I do know that dragonflies come in a wide variety of colors because every time I see one, even if I can't photograph it, I come home and I write down the colors that I saw. I've seen teal with black wings. I've seen red with golden wings. I have seen bright blue, like a cerulean blue, and I've seen an iridescent blue and purple. It seems like they do when they catch the light. They have a lot of iridescence in some of their bodies, especially those ones that are out on a lake. Now be sure that you attach this color to the body so that the wings are attached. Generally on a real dragonfly, they attach to the top of the body. But it's not going to matter too much on these small ones here. So we will get these areas painted in. And see how he's shaping up here. He's real pretty. Coming out real pretty here. I like using these bright colors. I have painted them in burgundies and purples and greens, and then I always like to accent them with something nice and bright too. I'm putting another coat of paint on a lot of these places. Like I said, since it's absorbing it pretty good, and I'm doing it quickly, I'm moving quickly here. That's looking nice. Now we've got a couple places here where these segments are right against each other and it's hard to see apart. So I am going to take, it looks like the bottom wing is in front of the top wing, so I'm going to put some Christmas green shading on that section. And that's kind of pretty on there, so I think I may just put it a couple other places as well. And oh, we should outline our wings too. I guess we didn't do that first this time. And that's okay, it's no big deal. We will come back into our easy float and make our bright avocado nice and inky. Touch the ferrule and we will outline our wings. And this dragonfly is going to have the sections that are considered clear. I'm going to coat those with gold glitz. We're going to have a green and gold dragonfly here. It's really absorbing this, isn't it? Okay, let me get out some more bright avocado. Well, kind of missed there, but that'll work. I didn't take the time to work this in very good, so I had rather a fat end there. It's not real good for your line work there if you go getting it big and blobby and you're hurrying like I'm doing. Take my time, get this outlined. Go over these lines again so they'll show up a little bit. It's not that important in this project that they show up a lot, but this gives you some good practice. I think we could even use a little more bright avocado on some of these edges here. I think these ends here didn't get another coat like the other end did. So we'll just get some bright avocado on here quick, and then we will fill in with the gold glitz. And I'm also going to want some limelight. I am going to paint this over the body to give the body some sparkle. Again, this will dry clear with green glitter showing. It won't look as milky after it dries. Okay, and I'll grab my number 2 brush to apply the gold glitz. Actually, I think I could probably even go up to a 4 to make this cover a little faster. And you just paint right over everything. And that way the green areas will have the same gold sparkle that the clear areas do. Let's get that all covered nice and solid there. You can see it's starting to sparkle already. A nice green and golden sparkling dragonfly. I really enjoy painting these because I can use a lot of different colors and they're so free and easy and everything. Okay, get your dragonfly painted to that point, and then I'll come back and show you how to put the gold accents on. Okay, do you have your green one all nice and coated in gold glitter? Okay, let's give it the tints now of the Imperial Gold. I go into my Easy Float as before, and I work into my Imperial Gold, trying to get it nice and inky, touching the tip, and then again I want to draw lines from the body outward on the top of each wing. And I put some marks on each of the little legs. Since this one's already got some gold, the gold really ties in nicely with this one. And you want to put some on the body and on the tail. And if it's absorbing the gold outline, go ahead and strengthen it. Okay, that one looks real pretty. Now we want to go over here and work on our purple one. I'm going to set the tray down on top of my previous work so that I don't have as far to reach. And I am going to paint the body dioxazine purple on this one. And if you'll notice, this one also has a lot of segments in the body, and it's got some eyes on its head and a body and a long segmented tail. There's a lot more detail in the body of this one than there was in the last two. So we'll fill in the area where the head is indicated, and then the area of the body. And I'm painting it in a kind of a circular motion so that I keep the shape. And then you've got the two little eyes out here, little round balls for eyes. And then we paint in kind of a scallopy look on these little segments of the tail going down here. And this black really eats up the purple. So we'll let that soak in just a little bit and we'll strengthen it. And I believe that I decided after I was working on this that I think it would be a good idea if we grabbed some wisteria. Wisteria is a nice pale blue violet. To help highlight the one edge so that we can see this dragonfly a little better. I'm going to wipe the extra purple out of my brush, and I'm going to grab some wisteria, and I'm going to come back along the left side here and give it some highlights. Create the shape here of the head and those two little beady eyes with my tiny little brush. And then I can come along and make scallops as I go down the body and down the tail. And see, that'll give me some nice segments. I think that works real well. If it's too bright for you, you can soften it in a little bit. But that'll really help this dragonfly show up better. Okay, and I did have some tints of ocean blue on my original one, but I believe I needed some wisteria in there to help that show up. Yes, I did. Okay, that was a good addition there. Okay, got a nice little body there. The wings are outlined with dioxazine purple, and that is probably not going to show up a whole lot for us, but at least if we've got a basic, oops, I just made a mistake there, force of habit, went into my water instead. Okay, back into my easy float as I thin my dioxazine purple. Blot my ferrule, and I go make an outline edge of my wings. And it doesn't show up very much, but I'm going to paint them in with turquoise sparkle. So it's not going to matter a whole lot, but it'll help give us a little definition as we're working here. And that's all we really need for this project. I'm wondering, as I'm sitting here painting and I am listening to my husband's little tractor out the window. I am guessing that you can hear that as well as I can. When the boys were little, they called it the putt-putt tractor, and I bet you can tell why. But he's headed out to the woods to pick up a load of firewood that he's been working on all winter, splitting for next winter. So right now, when I'm painting this, it's not really quite dragonfly time, but we're really looking forward to the day when it will be. Okay, we do have some little tiny legs springing out from the body, and I'm right up at the head. I'm stroking these on since I've got the liner out, and they're really not showing up. So we will thin a little bit of wisteria and stroke over top of those, and there we go. Now we can see them. Okay, now I'll grab my number 4 brush and fill the wings in with turquoise sparkle. I'll scoot this up a little closer so I don't drip anywhere. But like I said, if I do, it's okay. No reason to get worried about it. Get it all covered in nice and solid with turquoise sparkle. Doesn't that look pretty? The turquoise and the purple together. Looks like I'm going to need a little more paint because I want to make sure this is really well saturated. I also forgot to mention, as you're working, take the time to lift your fabric away from the canvas panel to prevent it from sticking while it's drying. This paint on some fabrics can go all the way through onto the canvas panel. And that's okay, it's not a big deal. But you just want to keep it in mind as you're painting, not to allow it to dry for several hours that way. It's not too bad on a canvas panel because of the gesso, but if you were using cardboard or something that isn't heavily coated against moisture, you would be peeling that up and have it stuck to the back of your fabric. Okay, that's looking good. I wiped the extra out of my brush, and I'm going to grab a little bit of purple on my brush, and I think that the bottom wing is underneath on this one, so I am going to shade this turquoise sparkle with that little side load of the dioxazine purple. There, look how that's set off. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, grab the liner brush again. And we remembered to go into the Easy Float this time. Work into the Imperial Gold, getting it nice and inky. And we will do strokes starting from the body, pulling outward. To help set off these wings. Guy really is coming out pretty, isn't he? And, you know, I could just put just a little slash out here on the ends. And then a tiny mark on some of my segments here. And maybe even on the legs. And now that dragonfly is done. You finish it, and I will show you how to do the flight path next. Okay, do you have these 3 dragonflies all painted up? Now we are going to work on our flight path. I like to get my sleeves out of the way so I don't drag them through the paint here. And you've got your Easy Float in your little well. And we look at our dragonflies. This one's obviously flying around, having a good old time. And you're going to want to sign your name too. So I like to kind of incorporate that into my flight path. So I'm working my paint, nice and inky here. I'm going to hold it straight up and down. And if you're uncomfortable doing this freehand, you can take your charcoal pencil and make some lines to follow. See, I've got just some nice light broken lines there that I can follow. Just a little bit of dash, dash, dash. Now, as I said, I like to do a lot of my line work also with my flat brush. So I would dip it into the paint, smash it into the bristles, and I will hold it straight up and down, and I will just make these little slash marks with a flat brush. So whatever you're more comfortable with. A lot of times, since I just don't always have the liner out, I just do it with the flat brush that I've got close at hand. And since I've already drawn the lines on ahead of time, I don't have to keep in any particular order as I'm creating my slash marks here. And get a little more Easy Float here, get a little more paint. And I can go ahead and write my name here. It is much easier to sign your name with a permanent pen than with paint on fabric. Here, I gotta thin it out some more. It's getting a little thick on me. Not making a nice line, but it's a little hard to do on the black because none of them show up. But on other colors of fabric, I prefer just to use a permanent marker. It just kind of drags and it takes a long time. Okay, you've got the idea here. You just want to get your name stuck on here, and then you could connect part of your flight path into your name. Gonna ink it up again. Okay, and then there we go. Now, this dragonfly, it must have swooped around from over here. You see the way the tail is pointing? And maybe he didn't do a loop-de-loo. Or maybe his loop went down like this. Just let your imagination run wild with it. Just enjoy yourself. Okay. Now for this last one up here, I want it to look like it's coming off the shoulder. So I am going to unpin this a little bit so that I can scoot this down. I'm going to hold on to it, smooth it out a little bit, then my paint again, and I am going to make these lines come out of my shoulder. Okay? Very good. All right, so now what we've got here is a great little t-shirt that can be fun to wear for casual, or you could dress it up. Look how beautiful this is looking as the paint is starting to dry and the glitter's really coming out of it. All right, now what I want to do is I want to paint. Remember how I have one painted here on the sleeve of this t-shirt? I painted this one with purple wings and a green and blue body. And on this one, on the tote bag, I painted it with green wings and a green and blue body. So this is going to be entirely up to you. What colors did you like the best when you were painting the rest of this design? And that's what I would recommend that you use. Now I open out my sleeve, and you can usually see a little crease down the middle there, and that would be the center of it. I take a baggie and stick the baggie in so that it doesn't bleed all the way through. And I am coaxing it up here. Well, you know what? I think my table's firm enough. I think we'll just turn it off to the side and we'll just do it right here on the table. Whatever way, wherever you think you can get a smoother, get it to lay out smooth for you. And we will take our resting dragonfly, and I want the little feet to be landing right on my hem. I'm holding down the corner of it. I take my bottle of paint, and there we go. We have our last little dragonfly all ready to go. And I think that the ocean blue showed up really nice on this fabric. So I am going to paint the little body ocean blue. And when I look, this little body has a little round head, and then it has an elongated little bit of a body there, and then it has a nice long tail. And I want to make that kind of point up. There, that's looking nice. Okay, I'm wiping the brush off. And let's see, what would we like to use with this? We could shade it with our Mediterranean blue here, where those segments, where the tail is joining the body and where the head is joining the body. And we get the whole body just a little bit darker, and that looks pretty. I don't mind that at all. Maybe paint a little of the Mediterranean blue there along the bottom edge. Wipe my brush, then go in with the corner of the purple and darken it a little more. Yep, I'm liking that. That's looking nice. I think I need a little purple on the bottom part of the little head here. Give it some depth. Grab a little more ocean blue here and get my feet so that they are standing where I want them to stand. Okay, I'm liking that. And let's outline our wings with the Mediterranean blue. We just have the two. Make sure they're attached to your body. And now remember that you want to allow this to dry at least 24 hours, 48 is better, before you launder it. I would recommend that you turn it inside out, and you can wash it in mild detergent. Don't use anything real harsh. And I do dry mine in the dryer. Okay, let's try Purple Sparkle for these wings. Purple Passion. And just take your number 4 brush and just paint that in nice and solid. You can dry it in the dryer. I've not had any trouble, but if your dryer tends to dry really hot, you may want to hang it up just to keep it from dulling your sparkle. The sparkle's permanent. I don't have trouble with it coming off all over the place either. You may see a flake here or there once in a while, but it really holds up quite well. And I do have 2 sons and a husband, and so obviously they don't want a lot of glitter on their clothes. So this just works really great for them. Okay, we got that on, and let's put a little bit of shading of this Mediterranean blue on that, where the one wing is behind the other. And I think we need a little bit of green in this. So I am going to grab my number 0 brush, and I'm going to take some of this Bright Avocado, and I'm going to tint it with the green. Okay, the last thing we have left to do on this one are those few strokes of gold. And you can do both edges of the wings where they come out from the body, whatever you think shows up nice. You can put a little on the legs, a little on the head. You can have a little bit up here. And you have got a masterpiece. So thank you so much for allowing me to join to teach you to paint today. And this is Deborah L. Welty of QualityArt.com signing off.